The next 90 minutes is an awesome conversation full of golden nuggets for everyone who wants to make it in the AI automation space. Look, over the course of the past 12 months, I've met many great minds. From $100 million giants to single person entrepreneurs who have their arms stretched literally around the world. And these conversations are awesome, but I noticed that when I jump onto YouTube, no one is actually talking about the conversations I'm having with these people in real time. I mean, the high level stuff that actually really makes a difference. So in this over-the-shoulder mastermind session that I had with Tylan Miller, also known as Chowderr to some of you guys, we discussed the most vital elements of being a builder, especially in the AI automation and voice AI automation space, in order to actually make it in 2024, 2025, and the next 3 years. Now, I actually already know why this is not a popular subject on YouTube and why I haven't seen it before. It's simply that with videos like this, many people just click away after 2 minutes because it's not one of those obvious, I sold this agent for $100,000, and if you do what I do, then you can sell it as well. You've all seen those videos, and oftentimes, sure, they make great agents, they make great automations, you can actually implement them, but building a business around it, one that is sustainable and that actually works, and have you understand how that system works and how to build on it, that's left out, and it's absolutely vital. So I'm going to warn you, the video you're about to watch might be boring, and that's the point, because I've noticed that those are actually the videos that hold the most valuable information. It's just raw, uncut golden nuggets thrown into your lap. Now, my friend Tylan has been a builder for the past 14 years, not just working with Vapi, but with many platforms and systems across the board. He's a very well-known character in this space, and he works directly with multi-million-dollar businesses to deliver AI solutions. So basically, he was already in this space before it became an AI thing. So in this over-the-shoulder mastermind session, we will talk about 4 ways of making money with voice agents, the difference between builders and marketers, and of course, how to spot them, choosing your tech stack and when to use which, Make.com, Zapier, N8N, Vapi AI, Airtable, AI Table. We get into all of them. Limitations of the Vapi dashboard, why we never log in and only use the Vapi APIs. The insane value of joining Discord communities for networking, finding clients, and building lifelong partnerships. Oh, and also which to join and which to avoid. We also talk about optimal efficiency strategies and how to implement techniques like the Pomodoro technique to work night and day as a builder without risking a loss of focus. And also a bunch of GPTs that will make your life as a builder in this space 10 times easier. Now, of course, this video, as with my other videos, will also have a resources document to be found on members.vlireo.com, and it will contain key takeaways from this conversation, some resources mentioned in the video, and also some of the most significant GPTs that Chowderr built in order to make your life easier and improve efficiency when building voice agents or any automation in general. So this is the first time that I'm saying something like this about my videos, but this is probably the one to go and save and watch back, even if you've already watched the entire thing, like a podcast for about like a second or third time. I for sure wish that I saw something like this when I first started out. So in any case, you can find the resources on members.vlireo.com. Also, we mentioned in the video that Tylan Miller, also known as Chowderr, is really a master at templatizing automations. And currently he's working on a directory which will actually eliminate about what we project 90% of all of the effort and work that goes into building agents that actually sell. Now, his business is NoCodePreneurs, and that's where he actually sells these templates and also his community. You can find NoCodePreneurs in the description, and it's also mentioned in the video and the resources that you can find on members.vlireo.com. And I really do advise you to have a quick look at his website, at the resources, at the templates, at the community, because I'm also working with him on this as well, and it's going to be incredibly valuable. In any case, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy it. And if you learned anything in this video, make sure to leave a like and also comment, especially comments. I really like it when people comment about my videos. I looked it up and I get quite a high comment ratio, just people saying that they like the video or they have a comment about something that we said or have a question that I really do answer. So if you leave a comment about this video, I will answer it and hope to see you in the community as well, of course. So in any case, enjoy. All right, so let's get started. I think this is an interesting format to try out. And first of all, I wanted to ask the most general question: what are you currently working on the most? And then first off, just client related with your client builds. Is there one thing where you're like, this is one significant project that takes up most of my attention, or is it more plug and plays of the same thing?
That's actually a good question. So, as you know, I work on both sides. I
Mm-hmm.
do have clients of my own, but I consider my clients to be more in a beta phase. Because I am a builder, I have been building more for agencies,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been doing, I would say, an even amount of both templates and custom. If anything, there's maybe like a function
Mm-hmm.
or two, may be a template, and then there may be something custom because there's a different platform that's being connected to, or the workflow may be a little different, so it's not the exact same template.
Yeah, exactly. And um, are you also like you're currently working on your affiliate portal and your so there's all these templates that you've built, both in AI table. This is actually how I first interacted with you when you shared the AI table. And at first, I had a quick glance at what it looked like with all of these agents and what's inside of them. And yeah, then I kind of registered what it was. I did realize that it was something special, but didn't really understand what it was. But the idea is that for every sector, for every use case, you're trying to templatize assistants that you can easily use and have it work well. And now you're also in the process of actually automating that, the generating of assistants in Vapi, right? So that's the big project that you're working on currently, is automating the system, but also making those templates available to people.
Yeah. So it's actually very interesting. Since I've started Vapi, I've kind of been on this like infrastructure journey. I think infrastructure is really important, and infrastructure on both sides, not only for the agency creating the voice assistant, but also later on for the customer and client to be able to create the voice assistant, if not the full assistant, some aspects of the assistant that can be templatized, like the first message, maybe the system prompt, in call, voicemail message, things like that. And how I first started doing that was making custom GPT, connecting to all the APIs, which is not a technically fully automated process because you do have to go into the GPT manually and things. But I guess at the base of that is basically taking, let's say, 80 or so industries: real estate, healthcare, insurance, education, customer support, agency, lawyer, so forth and so on, and making a template of that with
Mm-hmm.
just the basic things that would be common across all templates. Um, a very basic first message, maybe some of the basic tools like sending a SMS or booking on a calendar, give it a tone, a personality, all those things. And once you understand, and basically, so that's just like, let me
Is it
clarify
okay
so
if
we
I
get
actually
context.
show the
You can
AI
have
table
this
that
for
you've
the
built?
dashboard. Say that one more time.
Oh, is it okay if I actually show the AI table right now that you've built?
Yeah, do you have a link to it still?
Oh
You can
yeah,
still like pop it up
I see
or.
that. Like there was a link, but it expired. Is that right?
No, I can share a new one with you. Give me
Oh, okay,
one
perfect.
moment. But
Sorry
yeah,
for
so
interrupting you.
and
I
I'll
just
continue. Yeah, so no, you're good.
okay.
So also what I was saying was that you can have this template for the dashboard, and you can also have it for I mainly use it for the API because I like spinning up the API, gives you more control and other things like that. But the main thing is you can use this for yourself, and later on you can use this for clients. And what I'm doing now is basically, I would say, doing a version 2 of that where it is basically fully automated. You can type into anywhere, GPT or wherever the API is, wherever the app is built, or you can build this in Make or N8N. And basically, when somebody tells you what type of assistant they want, it will ping this database and then build out the essential parts and give you everything that you need in an API reference. So you can just go plug and play, and you can always have these to spin up. And I just sent you a link, Jesper. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, I'm in it right now. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. This is the first thing that I saw. And one thing that I thought was that I was really curious about is, of course, it's templatized. But which level do you? So, if you wanted to actually use this, is that something that the random person like a random business owner, like a dentist, could do, or do you need like some IT experience in order to do this, or be familiar with Vapi? So you actually have to be a builder, like agency level, or?
That's an interesting question because I really want to say no, and then I do want to say yes. What this is right here was just, to be honest, me. I have an abundance of resources in general, and if you're in the go high level space, you know that there's this a guy named Rob Bailey who is the king of database reactivation, and basically he has these templates across almost every industry of a business. There are about like 80 industries, and
Mm-hmm.
what I did was just take those 80 industries and say, hey, I need a type of voice assistant would you make for these industries? And there were my basic templates. I put that in a spreadsheet. I categorized each section of that,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just a basic part. So I think anybody can do that with basic knowledge, even if it was in Google Sheet or whatever the case may be, or even if you just put it up in Chat GPT or Claude or whatever. The other
Mm-hmm.
part that is a little bit of technical, using the API like me, and you're using all of the reference in the JSON and other things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
even before you get there, you could just use this to plug and play and copy and paste this inside of the Vapi dashboard if you wanted to.
Okay, so you're saying that you could, um, you mean like the dashboard where you log in, that you can make the API call
Yeah,
and it makes
yeah.
that assistant inside of the dashboard. That's basically what you're.
Well, that too. I would say that's the advanced part. But if you wanted to do just a original part, you could just copy it from, Google Sheets or AI Table or Airtable, and then paste it in a dashboard with the basic
Oh,
parts that you could paste
yeah, exactly.
before
So
you get to the
I'm in
API
that.
reference.
I'm in the AI table right now. So basically, what you put in there is the system prompt, the first message, description, the name, industry,
Mhm.
style. Wait, no, that's not something you put in there. Are those tags in order to
We
find
don't
the?
put the style in.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can be used as tags for that, but they can also be used. So like right now, what I'm building, only one of those has like the first message and other things. I just added those as this for this thing that I'm building. But I
Hmm.
have an automation where as it runs, because I keep these updated, especially as I'm gonna make these like available as like an API to, because they follow like these prompting guide and prompting frameworks that a lot of people don't know about and other things like that. So that'll be like kind of integrated. But a
Hmm.
style and tone should also be always used, for a role to go into that. So it uses that, right? It'll use the name and description, the style and tone to create the first message, the system prompt, and everything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And also one thing that I think is so is this also going to be part of you have of course your Vapi GPT that you've built, and that is actually in the documentation and that many other guys are using. And if anyone is watching this and is not using it yet, it's really great, not just for its connection with Vapi, but also in answering questions. For some reason, even though we've talked about it and prompting might not be that sophisticated, it actually gives me quite good answers. The My Vapi GPT. Is this something you're going to put in
Mhm.
there where you can connect to your Vapi and
Yeah,
then?
so it actually Yeah, so the my Vapi GPT actually is already connected to this AI table with this database here. And if you go through the process, I forgot what I have it built to do a couple things, but there's a sequence when you're building an assistant. It'll basically ask you if you want to create one from scratch or if you want to use a template. And if you say you want to use a template, when you kind of describe what you want, it'll go through this whole list here and then give you parts of the framework already, and then from there ask you like, do you want a tool attached or so forth and so on.
Yeah, okay. So first you have this question, you say creator mode, and then welcome to creator
Yeah,
mode,
yeah,
and
that's
then, yeah.
yeah, that's actually what it's actually called. It's actually called creator mode, I think. When you click on creator mode, it should take you through a sequence of questions
Hmm.
that will help you create an assistant from blank or from a template.
Yeah, honestly, I think that this is um, this just a GPT like this, but also what's in the Vapi Discord can actually help most people with the most basic questions that you and I get. So we're in the servers and we get the most basic questions about Vapi, and actually talking to these GPTs, or actually GPT in general, if you just turn on search mode, it will give you the right answer as well, probably. Um, but also that's something that
Another big
Mhm.
Yeah, another big thing that I didn't do, like when I made the video a couple of months back about talking about this, is like what it'll also do, even though it's connected to my account, is give you the JSON for anything you want to create in any like coding language for Vapi. So whether it's a curl request, which is a regular HTTP request everybody's using, whether it's
Mhm.
Python or whatever, because it has that information, it will literally just give you the JSON or code, go plug and play wherever, and it'll work. And you know it'll work because if it fires off and connects to my account and says it's successful, you can just go grab that and go put it in your account.
Mhm. So that's actually something I wanted to ask you because, well, with Make.com, one thing that you're running into, of course, is the number of operations that you use. You don't have that big of a problem with that if with N8N, which just charges by the number of runs of automations, but not per step of the automation. Um, but when do you use like real JavaScript or Python in order to um, run these automations and make API calls, for example? Because one thing that we use it for, obviously, is in Airtable and in the database to call over those call records and calling data. Um, when do you decide to either use an automation or go
hmm
straight to JavaScript? Is it like if it's easy enough where JavaScript can do all of it, or if it's just to get the information or to perform a basic
That's actually a
request?
yeah, that's actually a really good question, and hopefully I could give the best answer
It's
because
like no code, low code, and if
you
you build your entire automation, it would be hard programming.
well, you're exactly right, but the way I look at it is like the platform that you're using, uh, does it allow you to run that code besides the regular HTTP request, right? And I think a lot of people for Make specifically don't know that you can run code in Make because it's not native. You
Hmm.
can use something like CodeKit, which actually allows you to run Python and JavaScript and other things. And I think to answer your question, you would run that if only that platform only had the API or SDK like in code, if that makes sense. So if they didn't have a curl request and you could only run it through JavaScript, then
Hmm.
that's when you would have to use JavaScript. But in the case and example you gave, like in Airtable and visual databases or like even Google Apps, they're running JavaScript because that's just the ability or the feature that those platforms have. So
Hmm.
it's easy in our example to pull all our calls from Vapi instead of using any automation platform with JavaScript because it's free and that's what the platform allows us to do. So we take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so instead of using HTTP modules, for example, in order to what you would do in Make.com or making HTTP requests, you would use JavaScript in Airtable because that's the primary way of doing that specific to that platform. So perhaps one thing that would be interesting is actually finding if you're able to switch between those ways of calling and interacting with APIs, then that will give you more flexibility in building your systems and automations and using different platforms. So there's also one thing I wanted to ask is, of course, you get clients with different platforms. So this is one thing I run into, and that's the tech stack. So if it's simple clients, often I tell them the things I use are better. This is something that we talked about yesterday. For example, clients work with Google Sheets, and we want to work with platforms like Aitable and Airtable. So this strict line between when do you work with clients' platforms and when do you work with your own platforms? Or the platforms that you
So
prefer to
that's a
work
really
with?
good, yeah, that's a really good question. And this answer here might be kind of long, but I'll try to give the best, say it in the best way because my perspective is weird and
Mm-hmm.
it's also from a lot of personal experience. So, like, one of the things that I do really well is I play around in WordPress, despite the problems we had before we on this call. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I notice with WordPress, which attributes to a lot of the problems people say about WordPress, is that a lot of people were not using their own tech stack. They were using their client's tech stack, even when they knew that it wasn't an up-to-date tech stack or they only had the free plan or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that is problematic, especially if you're the expert. Now, there are some variables that are very important, I think, which go into this. So, if first off, your workflow, I talked about this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
What your workflow is in your company in every aspect defines how you interact with your client's tech stack, or if you choose to.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I really, even though I have a bias against Google, I
Mm-hmm.
do choose to work with them for other reasons that I'm going to state later on. But if I did not want to work with them, I just simply would not work with them. And that would be that. Yes, I understand everybody uses it, but I just don't want to use it, regardless of the fact that I could still find other ways to provide a solution, even with using Google Sheet, which I'll get into, which is the next answer. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first one. Like, if you don't want to work with a platform for whatever reason, you don't have to work with that platform. And yes, you might miss out on some deals. And unless you decide you want to work with that platform, then you work with that platform. Now, in the case of coming down to being an expert in knowing your tech stack, we know that Airtable and AI Table can have a synchronous relationship with Google. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever happens in that Google sheet will also happen in our own database, which then resolves that problem of us having to worry about Google Sheet too much because we still have all that data. The client can still go in, see all that stuff, and it just makes things very easy.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the last option, which is where you provide the entire solution, and you say, no, we're going to take those Google Sheets and put it in our database, and we have this interface that we built for you to see it, or you give them a login to AI
Mm-hmm.
table or Airtable, because once again, that's what you defined in your workflow. Everything is different for most people because of their workflow, or maybe the exception you make for that industry or for that client. Those are things I don't want to give like indefinite answer for because they can definitely vary based upon that situation. But I think those are like the three
Mm-hmm.
categories. It's either like you don't work with this entirely, you maybe, and what I would recommend if you do that, find someone that does work with that platform,
Mm-hmm.
send them over to them, create a JV partnership in some way, and maybe you get paid for sending them referrals for the same
Actually,
stuff. You just don't work with that platform. That's totally fine. Like, it's not a
yeah,
big deal.
that's actually something that I want to get into because the power of that, and for people who are in this space who are either agencies or builders or are just curious, um, we briefly talked about that, but the significance and the value of joining these communities, that is something that you really opened me up to. So I had my own network and trying it my own way through LinkedIn, for example. But Discord communities, all of these platforms have Discord communities. It's the best way to find these people to actually work with. So yeah, basically what you're opinion on that, joining Discord communities? Because if there's one thing that you have some experience with, it's
Yeah,
joining 1,000
I
Discord communities. Like
yeah,
everywhere
you
I
know.
go, I find Chowderr. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm in so I tell people like I've been in communities since like 2012 across many platforms, and I think I've always understood, like, I know they're definitely super popular now because of school and like this whole spin on subscriptions and all this stuff. But like, even in free community, like, I've just always understood that communities were powerful, especially if that platform created their own community. Now, what I
Hmm.
would say back in the day, it was more like the platforms didn't have a community or it was very weak, and it was the users who ended up creating a community.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, those weren't a lot of tech platforms back in the day, and even then, they still just weren't doing it because I don't think it was just a different time.
Hmm.
But now, like, one, I join communities for so many reasons. But one is because I want to see what's actually going on with the company and what they're doing. I want to see what their support is like. I want to see what resources they're doing, and like usually that's where you're going to find all of the information. That's where
Hmm.
they're going to be active. Then you have the side of like, and people, it's weird when I say it to people because I guess they don't understand it because they haven't been in a lot of communities. But you'll find literally for me, I find both clients. I find agencies,
Hmm.
and like literally in the Vapi community, I found people that are literally like people who watched a lot of content on YouTube, and like they're just like, no, I'm literally a small business owner and I'm just trying to look to see where the experts are. Which leads me to the next thing about community. Like,
Hmm.
most platforms have an expert directory or profile. So when
Yeah.
small businesses go to them, they refer you to people. When you're in a community, when you support, when you help, when you do things like that, it creates what's the word I'm looking for? Rapport, I think, about
Hmm.
you. Like, good
Authority.
information and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah.
So all that stuff is super helpful. And that's not even me talking about other communities that are not created by the platform that are still focused on voice or
Hmm.
AI or whatever the case may be, where you'll see a whole group of things, meet a whole group of different other people, be a part of workshops, learn stuff, just get an abundance of resources in a plethora of ways that you probably wouldn't expect it if you were not looking for those things.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that the communities that I've joined are great. I actually managed to make a small community of my own. That yeah, I really like that. It's quite active. I wish I could be more active. It's like it's like you don't ever sleep. You have all the time in the world. All these projects.
I'm used.
Hmm.
I'm used to being my. It's funny because everybody tells me that they're like, "How the fuck are you everywhere like at once?" And I'm like, "I'm not. Like, I I'm in a lot of meetings all the time as well,
Hmm.
but I have a very fine balance of like meetings and build hours and stuff like that. And then sometimes in between the day, sometimes I do just have time and I'm messaging and stuff like that. But that's actually normal to me. Like, that's how I've always throughout the years
You're also
done
like.
work, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
You're also, if I may suggest that, you're more of the like a builder, and you get a project, you run, you make it work, and you go on to the next until the next project comes, instead of more like a business developer. Um, is that accurate?
I guess you could say that. I think I'm maybe more getting into the business
Yeah, I
development, but
noticed that
yeah,
for
I
sure.
do
Yeah.
more so. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm getting more into the business development just because I think it's about that time. Like, I have my own projects, of course, that I've been building on, and it's not
Yeah.
that I'm in a rush, but they've been put on the shelf for long enough, and
Hmm.
they also are are and can be incorporated with some of the things I'm doing now. So like, one small example is like OpenAI just came out with swarms,
Hmm.
and about like 7 months ago, there was a guy on the OpenAI forum that basically made an open source version of swarms in GPTs, which basically was not called swarms,
Hmm.
which is very interesting. And now is a perfect use case I can show people. I think that would be helpful to learning more about swarms before they actually get into that, because I don't think a lot of people know that even though it's open source, it's something that it's experimental and it's not something that OpenAI is going to be building upon.
Mm-hmm.
So right now it's basically like you have to find other repositories of code that are built of things that actually work if you want to build more examples and stuff like that. And they're out there, but I think they may be hard to find for some people who don't explore code, whether they know it or not, or like are scared. We've had those conversations and stuff like that.
Yeah, one very interesting one is actually, if you remember that conversation about the real-time API just released, and everyone was like, "Okay, I'm dropping Vapi. I'm going straight to real-time API," and it's like you just learned how the Vapi API works, and now you're going to jump into the OpenAI OpenAI API and going to build your
Yeah,
own
that
model.
doesn't say HTTPS. That says WSS. It says
Hmm.
WebSocket. It's not.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta connect the WebSocket first before you even get to all that, and you're gonna be pulling your hair out probably.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that's actually something we shared is that demo that they made, and it makes it because you can easily install that. It's like I did that. It's 5 minutes work. It looks like the real-time API is something that's easy, but if you actually want to make your own voice agents with it and have it be sustainable and have it interact with your own systems, yeah, that's a totally different story. And also, and I
Yeah,
wanted to hear
definitely.
what you think about this. Is one of my arguments is that um, real-time API is too fresh to build your entire systems around them, um, to sell it to your clients, to build your app on it, the software. You can make it an element, but actually going full pull on the real-time API, I think that there's other things that are in the make that might also be interesting. And switching once you've built your entire platform on the real-time API could be difficult. And Vapi is also going to introduce it soon, and you can just use it through
It's
their
already
API
introduced.
reference, which,
It's in the,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah. So I 100% agree with you. Just
Hmm.
like anything new, which is sometimes weird for me in the tech space, but I already know the answer of why it's like that. But like, just like with anything that comes out, I feel like sometimes people treat things like it's the final version.
Hmm.
Like we are not in this state of technology where we know things get better over time and iterate and cost less. Specifically talking about how OpenAI rolls out their APIs for any endpoint or whatever, right? It's
Hmm.
super expensive at first, or it's gonna quote unquote super expensive at first, and then they lower it, it gets cheaper, it gets better, it does more things, etc.
I don't
Right?
think Vapi
But
is
even
expensive at
besides
all.
that, like,
Or you
yeah,
mean the
I mean,
real-time
I
API, or?
personally don't think. Well, yeah, I meant the real time API,
Oh, okay, yeah.
but to be honest, I don't think either are expensive. I think people. I mean, that's a whole different section. I don't want to get into that because people want to charge thousands of dollars but don't want to pay pennies for it and do all this. I don't understand. But going back to like your point, one, yeah, it's fresh, it's new. And if that pricing is something you're really concerned about, it's not something that would fit your quota. But also, I think if you just looked at it literally from the base of any platform, even if it
Hmm.
wasn't Vappy, you don't have as many voices, you don't have as much control, you have to use code. Like, there are clear signs of, yeah, I shouldn't go full force with this
Hmm.
unless you have the bandwidth, capacity, and resources. And most do not. And for
Hmm.
some people, they just can't admit that. They fall under the shiny object syndrome. They'll go waste 6 hours trying to go explore that
That's
template
the
or repo
perfect
to
way to
spin it
phrase
up.
it. Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Hmm.
right? At the end of the day, just to say it was too expensive, just to go back in the Vappy Discord server to ask Vappy when they're going to implement it to go through the same cycle and then not sell anything through that whole time and get no clients and complain that voice AI is hard. That's what's going to happen and is
Honestly,
happening now.
that's very true because real-time API they call it a game changer. Perhaps it's for Vapi because Vapi is originally an orchestration model, and of course, real-time API has all of these things. So the model, the TTS, and the STT. Am I saying that right? Speech to text and text
Yeah,
to
you're
speech. Yeah,
correct. You're correct.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
speech to
So
text and text to speech.
yeah, exactly. But I think that's Vapi is more than that. It's actually making it accessible and reliable. So one thing that I also find interesting is there's these other conversational AI APIs coming up, and using Vapi, it's just a way to also very flexibly and reliably switch platforms if a better one comes up that's either cheaper or more reliable. And also, you could there's two ways you could do that. Either you could build a fallback. So this is one thing they actually talk about with some clients, is that you mean the deepgram fallout that
Hmm.
Vapi had, where
Hmm.
there was an error and all the servers were down and the agents couldn't pick up the phone. So you could
Hmm.
either make your own fallback on that, but also you could use fallback models inside of Vapi. So either you don't just use one system, because if that system fails, then you can't pick up calls. So
Right.
all of these other models that you would then have to use as fallback models, you would also have to build yourself and maintain to work with the system that you're building. And that's one great thing about Vapi, is you can have direct access to multiple models from multiple companies through one single API reference, instead of having to switch the entire API in order to
Yeah.
build a
And some
fallback. Or
people, and some people criticize that and think that's bad, or, I mean, I don't know. My whole view on a lot of things is 50-50, and being able to have flexibility in general, I think, is amazing. And that's how I make most of my money in general, because people are coming from platforms that don't allow them flexibility. And that's not saying those platforms are not great, but any platform could be great, doesn't allow you to be flexible, do what you want, or the way you want to do it, which is the most important thing. There's a lot of platforms that can do a lot of things, but does it do it the way you
actually,
want? That's the
actually,
deciding factor.
you phrased this perfectly, because like a few minutes earlier you said, yeah, you could do that, but what is your bandwidth? So yeah, for sure, you can have unlimited flexibility if you want to program everything in binary code with ones and zeros. You could build literally anything, but you have the bandwidth to do that. I think what makes Vapi powerful is that I think it's the perfect blend between flexibility and also reliability of systems, where you can easily switch between them, have a fallback, and also, like, the one reason, if you're a bigger enterprise business and you don't want to be reliant on Vapi, or you want more flexibility, then I would only not use Vapi and the real-time API if actually voice, and specifically what Vapi does, is your core business. But if it's not, if it's an element of your,
Hmm.
like some clients that I work with have their CRM and they want this to be, especially in Go high level, they want this to be a part of their system. In that case, I would say just stick with Vapi, because it's just an element, an important element, because it's a huge advantage, but still an element of your project instead of the core of your project. So,
Right.
thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I mean, I think Vappy will always remain top five, top three, top five,
Top five. So we're
just
one,
because
two,
of the
three, and
flex.
four.
Well, I say that because overall, I think they will always be top five, but they are in
Hmm.
my top three of voice platforms. But just because of flexibility, I think that for any platform, it's one reason why WordPress is still around for 20 years, even though people
Hmm.
think it's the worst platform ever, because it gives you the most flexibility. And then they said, hey, anybody that wants to contribute to this, go ahead, and we'll put you in the marketplace. And then you
Hmm.
have extra stuff, and you just can't beat that, because then there's a person out there that thinks just the way you do, and they're going to build it just the way you want it. And it's not going to be a SaaS company all the time. Not to say none of these
Hmm.
SaaS companies are not. Like, I understand. I think one thing too that doesn't, we talked about this yesterday, that gets overlooked is, like, every company, every platform, just like us, who's building something, we have a certain way of how we want that to be. And
Hmm.
if we end up having clients, we also have the luxury of our clients giving us feedback to make this product better or to add features. What I think happens a lot is that a lot of these platforms end up getting lost in the request of their clients, because it's two sides. One, they probably have not explained their platform good enough, or
Hmm.
two, they have a flux of people who are really not their target audience that are on their platform. And we've talked about this all the time. I think Vappy is a perfect explanation of that. You have way more marketers talking about Vappy than actual developers, and
Hmm.
Vappy is a development platform. And in no scenario for any industry, marketers cannot teach you about development platforms. They can teach you about some automations, which is technically not development, but anyway, right? And a developer can't teach you about marketing and so forth and so on. It just doesn't work like that. And that's not me saying they cannot give you helpful information. They cannot give you resources. They cannot do these things. But this is what I will say. If a plethora, if I would argue over 1 million views of voice AI content is out there from marketers, and people still don't know the basics. Now, I'm not talking about people who are new. I'm talking about people who you can obviously see have been doing this for a while and they're still lost. And they're coming out and saying, I don't get what the fuck this is, even though I've watched every piece of content out
Yeah,
there.
because content is
That
being generated by marketers, not builders, actually. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's one great example. You have your YouTube channel, of course. And, well, also, if I,
that I'm
so
terrible at.
yeah, well, actually, not terrible at. You can just read the comments, and everyone watching this should definitely subscribe to that platform because you can read the comments, and the people that actually watch the video and take the time to comment are incredibly appreciative of it because they can know the system or similar system. It gives them ideas, and they can execute. Um, yeah, but some of them are either advanced or. When you're talking on a builder level, I think it's difficult to make videos for a general audience. Is that right? To make that balance.
I would I would definitely agree. I would say it takes some experience, and even though I do have a good amount of experience, it's still hard because I can't display that experience, and I don't want to have my experience be a crutch
Mm-hmm.
all the time for reliable information, if that makes sense. Even though I know that's a determining factor, right? Why should I listen to this person? Because they have experience. But there are times where people who don't have as much experience or sometimes no experience that do understand the fundamental concepts of things. I think that's why I've always been good at automations in general because I really understood the fundamental concept and I was doing it when I was not even in business at all or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that, right? But what I do try to do in all my videos or whenever to be honest, just in general, is I try to give an answer that's gonna make you think. I'm gonna show you something that's gonna make you think differently than what I know is out there,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether I think it's right or wrong, so you can have your aha moment or whatever you're trying to figure out or solve. That's how I look at things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that actually that's what we had one session went over some things and yeah, so you're kind of a person who goes from left to right and then up to down. But if and some, I can imagine that some people kind of lose attention at some point. But if you really do focus and if you really do try to understand, whether it's with you or your videos or any other content that's similar, if you actually do pay attention, even if it's difficult to focus, because it's not something you're familiar with, then that aha moment will come eventually. That's something that I noticed also
Yeah,
with
for
my
sure.
conversations with you. It's like actually paying close attention, trying to really figure it out. That's also a bit of passion and enthusiasm. So that's something that people notice when in a meeting with me,
I'm
for
out,
example.
and I'm gonna
But
say one.
hmm
Yeah, I'm gonna say one thing that I think a lot of people don't. This is not said a lot. You're not supposed to get it the first time.
hmm
You're not. Most you like understanding what someone is saying the first time is usually not something that happens, whether someone is super experienced or not, whether we're talking about technology or not.
hmm
There's some things you hear, you're like, huh? Let me think that over. Let me go read it over or whatever. And you're like, ah, that's what he meant. That's what they
hmm
meant. And I don't think people take information like that. They're like, it's presented in front of me.
hmm
It was presented this way. I went to go try to do it. Like, I didn't get it. Something's wrong, or this is entirely flawed, or whatever. And it's like, that's not how learning works.
hmm It's also it's the same thing with building, right? Actually had a consult with someone today where we did a live build. So it's something I do these days, and I really like that. So they can just um, book a consult. We do a live building systems, and then um, in that live build, I actually say that, sure, you watch my videos, and in my videos, you notice that I don't cut out those errors. And in the consoles, you will also find errors because that's how I build. It's like, okay, I think this works. We make the call, and then we run into an error. And then we fix the error, make the call, run into an error. Then we make the call. So errors don't used to really frustrate me because I thought, okay, never mind, can't do this. But actually, errors are like the baseline these days. So even if I make the most basic transient agent, which is just leaving a note and booking a meeting, an error will come up. Like I misreferenced a variable, or I misplaced a variable. Filter is still referencing non-existing variables or modules, for example.
Right.
So yeah, you might
You forgot you deleted something and changed something. You're like, what the hell is this block thing right here? Oh yeah, I forgot. I
yeah,
got to change this thing.
yeah, exactly. In Make. So yeah, these days it's like a standard. It's like, okay, let's make a call, and which errors do we have? So I make the call in order to run the automation to see which errors we're going to have, instead of assuming that it will work out of the box. And that's something that we talked about. And I think that's very powerful. Something that you said is that might be what's the problem with templatizing, with systems with blueprints and videos. They are like, watch this video. These are videos that I make. I do try to make them step by step so they can actually follow along and learn from it. But the marketing side is like, hey, I have a template. You can just copy and paste this and sell it to all of your clients and make millions of dollars. And the problem with that is
Right.
when the marketing message is attached to that, and that's why I think this, what we're doing right now is also really valuable, is that if that marketing message is attached, it sets the expectation to the viewer that it should work out of the box. And if you get an error, you're doing something wrong. If you get them twice, you're just going to put it off and click away the video and go on with the rest of your day. Not realizing that that's
Right.
basically what we do, is just expect an error to see where we did something wrong and then fix it.
I think you've literally said it in the most literally perfect way. Like I couldn't have said it better. And that's not to say that templates are bad. The whole point of a template is for you to learn.
Hmm.
Some would argue that some of the templates that some people are downloading are too advanced. I would argue that if you don't know the basic of the platform where the template is stored,
Hmm.
you're always going to have problems. It doesn't matter what you see or copy. And that's kind of there's a couple of things that all tie in together to why I think the learning curve seems harder than what it is for a lot of people actually stepping into the space, because there's
Hmm.
not a lot of good analogies or references or things said before to help people. And you hit it spot on. I think if the marketing message was not attached
Hmm.
in general, anything else was said, the learning curve would be way better for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because it might set wrong expectations. It's like because like that. Let's be honest. That's also kind of how YouTube works. Same with this video. I'm actually, for the guys watching this, I'm
Yes.
actually doing
And,
the
and, and,
intro later in order to make that hype intro that makes people watch. And well, actually told Tylan that.
and once again, nothing's wrong with that, because that's how the cookie crumbles, right?
Hmm.
Like, but I think that if we were to take it a step further, I think that if you consider yourself an expert in a space, or you want to be an expert, or you want to be an educator, or you want to be that voice in a space, those are things to consider when making content. And I would argue I don't think a lot of people are doing that. And that could simply be because they don't want to.
Hmm.
And I understand that people like me or the other people may not be their target audience. And I understand that the way that I think shouldn't be the way that people put out content and things like that. But from a educational standpoint, I think that a lot of people sometimes are not consider, like they don't think, not only they consider it, they don't think
Hmm.
about if they attach that marketing message, how that might affect somebody's learning curve.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that especially we can make marketing message that's basically also just expectations. So the marketing message can set wrong expectations. And actually,
Right.
we had this
But
talk one time. So the first time we met, it was like, okay, so are you like focused on marketing or actually focused on building? And since that discussion, this is something that actually I heard a lot, not just from me. I do mention it. There's this divide between marketing and building, and most marketers have builders behind them. But also like from the clients, and that, I'm not initiating that. That's also something that they find themselves in interacting with people. And honestly, I think that I currently am somewhere in between. I think running somewhere
Hmm.
in between, especially with the Vapi. And also one thing that's really
I
important
could.
in this. Mhm.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish.
Oh yeah, yeah, finding the right people to work with for a specific use case, because you can be a builder but have deep knowledge in one space and not so much knowledge in one space. So I have a Christian who I work with in order to do chat flows. So building those chat flows of initiating conversation and then a boolean of yes or no, and then this next step in the conversation. So chat flows. I have Luke who I work with in order to do the AI modeling, actually programming and training, fine tuning AIs, and yeah, so finding the right people to actually work with and execute on specific parts where either you lack or uh, yeah, basically that where you lack or can deliver to your clients. I think that's powerful, and that's also something I'm running into is finding the right people to work with. And these Discord communities are like probably the best place right now to do it.
Yeah, Discord is a very underrated platform as community. People are, once again, they don't take the time to learn how a server works and what pops up and what pops up on your screen, and then they say that platform's too complicated, and then they miss
Yeah.
out on a lot of stuff. Like I could say the same thing about school. I could say the same thing about Facebook groups. I could say the same thing about any platform. If I don't want to say this like in the wrong way. If you don't have the capacity for it, that's fine. I think the next step is figuring out, do you want to have the capacity or is it not
Hmm.
for you? And if it's not for you, then it's not for you, and nothing's wrong with that. And I don't think, um, I don't think that's said enough. That's why I try to preach it or rant about it as much as
Yeah.
I can, because I think some of the things that are thought about in this process are not important. Like a lot of people are like, I'm not technical like you. Like a lot of people think I'm a coder, and I'm like, I know. I've had this conversation with you. Like I don't know any fucking code. I'll go take a project, throw it in Chat GPT, and have
Yeah.
it explain it to me, and go learn
Yeah,
if
but
I have the
one thing's for
capacity. And
sure
some
is
days
like,
I have a.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thing for sure is like you might not be a master in code, but like actually building automations, that's quite all right. So it's like you have your expertise, but like the projects that you can take on and the efficiency with which you can deliver on them, and the like even in our world, the automation world, which is either no code or low code, opportunities are huge in order to build things. Like you can
Right.
really quickly go from nothing to something that actually works, um, and make it cost efficient, make it reliable. And I've had discussions right now with very serious and big agencies that just do programming and development, all of the languages and with all of the
Mhm.
systems. And they're like, oh, I really need to get into this no code, because if they, like with the people I work with, when we do AI modeling and building AIs, which um, well is mostly a programming thing. Um, what was my thought? Yeah, so I show them what we can do these days with no code and low code, the applications we can build in the tech stack that we work with, how efficiently and quickly we can set something up, and they compare that to actually programming and writing that with code, and it's like huge. And this is something that you also found out is working with these components, those pre-built components. Like for most things, there's already a
Mhm.
component that you don't even have to code or just slightly edit, and you can use ChatGPT for that, or actually find it out if it's just a small
Mhm.
bit of code, and then have it running instantly.
Instantly, damn near the same as a make automation template. Once you understand how it works and you get to firing. And I was gonna say, like, going back to my last statement, I think the greatest thing that you could have is patience. And I might be specifically talking to builders more here, but like really patience is what defines a builder. if you can have patience to get through errors and learn how shit works, you'll be fine. Like I have days where I may be working on something and I get errors for the whole day, and I don't
Hmm.
get it solved until the next day. I don't have a lot of things unless it's something like completely new, where I like maybe take a break and come back to it like a month later or something, and all of a sudden, like I just know how to do everything and it works. And
Yeah,
sometimes that's just how that shit happens. It's
it
just
can be a
like that.
subconscious thing. Sure. Like
Yeah.
that's.
Well,
Mhm.
sometimes I have an aha moment with something else, and with that something else, I'm like, oh, that's how that could work in there, and then I go back in there and I apply it, and then it ends up working.
Yeah, that, but also one thing that's for sure. That's that I do recognize that, but also in with these errors. Okay, so this is something you for sure are going to recognize, and this is something that I actually had to check myself not to do anymore, and that's getting frustrated with errors. I run into an error, and I try to solve that error by finding a solution that gives also an error, then try to solve that error with another solution, and then try to solve that one with another solution, and then it works, but I'm like four
Right.
branches off from where I should be. Even though with
Yeah,
the
where you started off, yeah.
yeah, I
And
could also just use a
yeah.
different approach where I started off, and then that one works, and then it's actually a more better, more reliable
Yeah.
automation.
I've
That's
I've
something that comes to me the
I've
next
ran in
day, you know?
yeah, I've ran into that so many times with creating GPTs or like creating the API schemas. Like, oh man, I'll see, and sometimes it might not even be me. It might be Chat GPT, or it could be both of us just
Hmm.
fucking being dumb for the day, and it takes a couple hours or a reset. People don't understand. Like, you exert brain power. Like for me,
Yeah, for sure.
I've been doing it for a long time, so
Hmm.
I'm used to it. Right? A lot of people are not used to getting a lot of information in
Hmm.
general. And then you got to be able to process that information, right?
Hmm.
Like there's a lot of things that goes on with that, not to be like super technical, because I think for me, I sometimes I don't like explaining these things because I am at that level where it's kind of hard to like regress back and explain because I've been
Yeah,
doing it
yeah,
for so
yeah,
long. Like when I first
yeah.
started automation, I was always big on like asynchronous communication and balancing your schedule and like
You didn't have
using things
ChatGPT.
like the Pomodoro technique. Yeah, I didn't have ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
So like I was, but like these automation platforms were big on obviously still saving time and doing things, right? So like I found out about like the Pomodoro technique and doing stuff like that, which attributed to like why I can work a 12-hour, 15-hour day if I want to, and it's fine, and then go work
Well,
4 hours
yeah,
of
what was
building at
that?
night and
Pomodoro
sleep three
technique is
hours.
something like, yeah, that tomato is like a 5 minute rest every 25 minutes, or?
Yeah, yeah, it's like you have a task and you complete the task in like intervals of like 30 minutes, and then you take a break for like 10 minutes, and then you move on to another task, not the same task. So
Hmm.
you don't complete that task. You just are doing all the tasks that you're supposed to do,
So,
moving back and forth, and then eventually they'll basically all be completed. But
so
you're
this is
taking
the
breaks in between those tasks.
yeah. So this is the secret to your hyper efficiency. It's just the Pomodoro technique. Ah, now,
Yeah,
yeah,
so yeah, I've always been into things like that because, like I said, when I first started automation, one of the main companies I use is called Todoist, and they're basically a asynchronous
oh yeah.
company. Like they literally work all around the world. They don't even have a location where all their like team members meet and stuff. And I was like very fascinated by this stuff. So I was learning all this business stuff before I had a business, which
Hmm.
I was already kind of doing in my business, like in my personal life. But also too, like I would not deny the fact that I am a person who craves for hunger. I am um like Doctor Strange that has that ability. Like you read something once or see something and then you're able to like do it or implement it or like
Hmm.
understand it easy, right? So I do have a couple of what people would call gifts or components that help me understand technology faster than the average person and retain longer information and stuff. That doesn't mean I'm smarter. I just some people are just wired differently, right? But
Hmm.
that's not me definitely saying that if you don't sit down and take your time in your own way,
Hmm.
that you can't get to the same thing that I got because I started the same way. I didn't know what
Hmm.
automations were. I wanted to automate a grip of anime posts from Twitter and save them in a spreadsheet, and therefore that started my journey to the rambling person I am now about automation.
Yeah, exactly. I can imagine that for sure. Also, something that I wanted to get into, I think was interesting is so I also sent you this list, of course, of things I wanted to talk about, and I had this list in my mind, which was the ways of making money with voice agents. This is something that I just came up with. I thought that of course, there's a billion ways to make money with voice agents. You just have to be creative, but these are the most popular ones, I think. And my list is at so either wait, I'll quickly grab this list right here. So my idea was either through referrals, affiliates, or partnerships. So that's on a commission base. Setting a service, so an hourly rate or a flat setup fee. White label Vapi plus service, which means that you might have come across this. People are selling it like this, is where you're telling them, I build agents, but you don't mention Vapi anywhere. They're not going to see Vapi. You just have this demo, which has your own on your website, for example, or just something you see show in the meeting. And then white label Vapi, and then also your service. So you build them an agent, and then you charge for usage for that agent. So setup fee plus usage billing. So white label Vapi as a service. And then also building a SaaS. So something that we kind of made with Flireo, which has pricing plans, usage add-ons, and service fee. Is there any of these? This is what I wanted to ask you, because I think that for you, that's an interesting question. Is there any of these that you do not necessarily believe in that actually work? Or should I repeat them to you? Do you have...
Nah, they are all spot on, and I think they're even close to like what a lot of people reference to what Alec Hermosi says, and like your like pathways to like how you make money. Like you have affiliates, like anything you sell, you should have an affiliate program.
Mm-hmm.
Blank period, right? Then you also have like JV partnerships, a step above with that,
What's that?
right?
JV partnerships?
Uh, JV partnership is like, oh, I don't know why I'm having a brain fart with this, and I talk about this kind of all the time. But a JV partnership is like when you partner. Let's say you may partner with a digital agency,
Mm-hmm.
and you build voice assistants for them, or they send you voice assistants, right? Like that's your joint
Oh,
venture
JV.
partner.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, right. So like that's amazing. That would be the next step from an affiliate, right? Selling a service, that's pretty standard. That's like I would put that under like Vapi directory or an
Mm-hmm.
expert, right? A
Yeah,
small business owner's coming to Vapi and saying, "Hey, I need something built," and then they say, "Hey, look, we have these experts here. You go there, and here is their hourly price that they'll build everything. This person knows it's Vapi. They don't care about white label or anything, and then you build it from them, and so forth and so on. And then
yeah,
you have
exactly. So
the
that's
white
what we
label
do.
Vapi. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have the white label Vapi where, like you said, you basically have built something in some capacity where nobody knows that it's Vapi and it's your company basically, and you sell a product that has a monthly subscription in some form or fashion. And then you have building like a full on SaaS.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I think of the white label with Vapi, let me take it back. When I think of the white label with Vapi, that's basically software with a service. When I think of the building a SaaS, that's just software as a service. So that means like it would be kind of set up in a way where anybody would be able to go there regardless to use the APIs, but they wouldn't get as much help
Mm-hmm.
because there's no with a service. There's just a software that they're paying for.
Yeah, so just to see if we're on the same line, because I think you have some interesting input there. What I currently see on the white label Vapi plus service, so it's actually plus service, is that you're in a meeting, you show them, hey, I have this AI agent that works, and they can make a call and they're talking to this agent and they're completely wowed, and you tell them, hey, I can build these for you. It will cost $2,000 to build, and the fee per month is like $500, for example. Just throwing something out there.
Right.
That's then white label Vapi, and that includes then maintenance and usage cost and the add-ons and all of that.
Yeah.
And then
So you're adding services. You're adding services with that. So it'd be software as a service or software with a service, as some would say,
yeah,
because you
well,
have services attached with that.
well, the thing is that like this doesn't have any login unless it's like how would you say that you can log into platforms that are not Vapi, for example. So um, it's like white labeling only Vapi, but the tech stack is bigger, obviously, because your clients in this white label
Right, right,
version,
right, right,
you only white label Vapi, but not Airtable, not Make.com, not all of these platforms.
right, right.
So,
But
mhm.
but if you still are providing those things, that's why I'm saying it falls under as a service, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. I,
exactly.
I get
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah. If you didn't provide anything, then it would fall under that last one, just the building a SaaS, because you're just giving them the software
Yeah,
with no services basically attached for anything.
completely
They
do it
they would
yourself.
be
Just
literally doing all that themselves or
hmm
hiring a developer or something like that outside source.
yeah. Okay, so that was my first question. Is there any of these? So I think this is also perhaps the ramp up for people. I think in many cases, so what we're doing is just selling a service. We're not white labeling Vapi. If people want us to build them an agent, we're going to do that, and we're directly referencing Vapi. We're not, but we also have our platform, which is of course built on Vapi and other things. So we've kind of skipped the white label Vapi plus service and went straight to directly building a SaaS, which is just a very easy
Hmm.
way for people to instantly get an instant agent that can pick up a call and they'll always be available 24/7. So that's something that we wanted to introduce. Um, so that was the first idea was, is there any of these that you don't believe in? And my second question was, and I think that's perhaps even more interesting, is there any of these where you're like, hey, I think that one of these has the biggest potential for people joining in this space to build a business around? Is that referrals? And in referrals, I actually don't just mean affiliates or referrals with Vapi or partnerships with Vapi, but also like with us or with you or any other agency that builds with Vapi, where they refer clients to an agency, a service-based agency, and then get a commission for referring a client that wants a custom agent, and then getting a commission on the service. So that's also something that's a part of
Mm.
that. But do you think any of these four has the biggest potential right now, or would you say I can't say right now what I think?
I think my actual answer is I can't say right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I will give another answer as well.
Oh,
I think
perfect.
that referrals, affiliates, partnerships, JV partnerships is ultimately going to be the best for most people,
Mm-hmm.
even if the scenario is they're just telling people it's Vappy and building for them because they got a referral,
Mm-hmm.
or whether they have a white labeled product.
Mm-hmm.
Now to add on top of that, I think the people who have the bandwidth, capacity, and resources to build a white label product right now will be at the forefront because it's something that to offer, whether it's something that's complete or not. As I
Mm-hmm.
think you see that now, a lot of that, like a lot of people are stagnant because there's not a lot of white label offerings, or there are and they don't like them at all, which is why we've been kind of encouraging and showing how you can build your own at the bare bones minimum.
And so, with the white label version, would you say so? There's, I guess, two ways of. I show this in my video. You also have a video on this, building this dashboard. I like to call it the portal because you can do more things, not just see the graphs, but also have this call browser where you can look through the calls, and also this agent management system. You can tweak your agent. So, building that portal, that's obviously white label to some degree. Um, you could either build on a software and give it your own domain and your own logo, and then it's like your SaaS, you could say. Or you could build it in
Hmm.
Airtable, give them login to that interface, and then it will also, of course, be completely Airtable branded. So would you put that into the same category, since software is basically um, a data visualizer? but then a white label data visualizer? So that's the first question. And perhaps the more interesting question is, um, do you consider, okay, so what do you think is the best way with the white label Vapi? Would you build a portal where all clients can log in and they can only see their data, or would you build individual portals for each client? So for example, in Airtable, you can either attach your Airtable to a data visualizer that you can filter based on the user, like with Software, for example, or you can just build an Airtable base for each individual clients and build an individual interface for each client. Is that something you think about, or is it like that's not something I thought about yet? Did I say thinked? I mean,
No,
thought about.
no, you're good. I know what you mean.
Okay.
Yeah. So real quick, to go to your first question, I want to understand it correctly. Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So, um, how to say that? Would you put so Airtable would be the database, and the front end would be something like Software or Bubble. And the front
Hmm.
end only interacts with the database, but that application, that front end, doesn't really do anything in and of itself. And the database is just something that is called out of Vapi, for example. And you have these three things which are basically directly interacting with the database. So would you call that white label or a SaaS? Because I think that is perhaps a bit blurry.
Both. I
Hmm.
would I would say it's both. It's technically both. You are providing a white label solution, and that platform that you're building it on has the capability
Okay,
to turn it into a SaaS,
I
to
think
give
that.
people a login, to
Mhm.
have people pay subscription, OAuth, and all those other things.
Okay, right. So, okay, so it would be a white label platform, or it would just be a portal. Let's just get rid of white label. It will be a portal if you have to onboard your clients and add them manually, for example, and you're in a meeting and you sign an agreement and that stuff. And if it's fully do it yourself, so they can pick their pricing plan and they can make an account and log in and build their agent, then it would probably be SaaS, right? That's then
Well, it
the
it's
name
still
doesn't really
SaaS
matter,
because
of course,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say it's still SaaS because basically you're providing something for them to log into. I mean,
Hmm.
and even a free subscription is still a subscription if that makes sense. Obviously, we're doing paid here, so it would still be a SaaS. But to go back, I think what you were asking is like, you take out the white label part. Like
Hmm.
anytime you slap on your own interface over something else or an API, whether that company is branded to be white labeled or not, you're
Hmm.
basically white labeling that platform.
Yeah.
And if you build it in a way where people can log in, whether it's on a free subscription or a paid subscription, I think that falls under the SaaS, software as a service. I mean, just software, yeah,
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 software as a
software as a
service.
service model.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
to
Yeah.
answer, so that was the first one. To answer your next question, which was, damn it, I had to answer, but I forgot thinking about that question. Could you repeat that one? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So originally, my
Brain going
question
into
was: do you
frenzy.
see any of these as the most profitable one? And then the question was, um, um, yeah, the divide between white label and the portal, and if any of those is more profitable or more, if there's more opportunity in either of them, or if you don't believe in either of them, because that's something that
Oh yeah,
perhaps you might want to
you
make a
you were asking
choice
me about
in.
the.
Yeah, so the white label, or so just you have a database and you have a data the place the dashboard, you could say, or the portal, and so the dashboard and the you have the database and you have the portal. So would you build one database with all of the information from all clients and then give each individual client their own interface and their own dashboard? Or would you also give them each an individual database? So for example, in Airtable, each individual clients gets their own database, or do you have one database for all clients? Or is that something that you can't say right now, or is that something
No,
that
no, no. No. So I have a master database where
Mhm.
all the calls go into, and then I do have folders where all those calls are segmented to those specific clients. Just because like we've talked about this in the details, like in the API, you can basically just track everything because you give it a name and it can be set up in a certain way and stuff like that. And that's the main reason I do that is simply just because I think that's the best way to log everything. And that's not me saying that you can't do either or. So one thing that I do think is important, maybe I should have said this earlier, is like preference, right? Like preference usually wins over how you should do a workflow for some people. So for some people, it might be easier for whatever reason to not have a master database and just have those different folders for their clients for whatever reason. But what I will say, and hopefully this makes sense, is I think that when you talk to other people, it's no different than like, I think we've had conversations where if you've seen this before, somebody's come to you with another make template and you're looking at the template and you're like, why did they do this way? And it's either one because they lack the knowledge of doing it what would be the standard. So I want to make that clear. Like,
Yeah.
what would be the standard way you would build this automation, opposed to now I tweaked it to my preference of what I want it to be, if that makes sense. And I've seen some examples of, and I want to try to give a really like clear one of like, okay, I've seen examples of automations for Vapi, and this is not a tool. I've seen it where somebody's trying to make an outbound call, but they have a webhook response in the middle of the automation. And I'm like, why did you put this here? And like, I didn't put that there. That was in the automation when I got it. And I'm like, why would this person put a webhook response module in the middle of an automation? And that's not how it's supposed to be, let alone to make an outbound call for Vapi. You don't need that you get what I'm saying? So it's like certain things like
Was it
that
like with a
where
router
if you're
or?
able to talk, no, it wasn't even with a router. It was just like dead smack one line
Okay.
webhook response in the middle of like five modules. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even built in a way where you could be like, oh, I see they were trying to route this, even if that was the case. Like it was just flat out wrong, right? So I had to like explain to this person, like, yeah, you don't. Then when I like gave them information and they came back again, they did the same thing, and I was like, why'd you do that? And he was like, oh, because it was in the other automation. I thought it was supposed to be like that, and I was like, no, you don't need this at all, right? So what I was trying to go back to the point I'm trying to make is when you build something, if you have the opportunity to show other people who may help improve upon that automation in any platform, whether it be less modules or a better output or something like that, you should always take advantage of that because that's always cool. But
Yeah.
once again, also remember that everybody has their own preference of how they do things. I'll give try to give one more clear examples. Like I think if one of my biggest rants that I had about the Vappy space is I don't understand why a lot of the content creators that use go high level have automations that trigger the outbound calls to make when you can just do the calls inside of high level. And every time somebody comes to me and
Wait,
like they're using high
could you
level
say
and
that?
I'm like,
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
yeah, so like a lot of the content that's out there when people are using high level, they have automations where I'll give you a super clear example. A form is filled out from high level. That information goes in high level. It goes to a webhook, then it goes to make. It goes
Oh,
to make to
yeah.
then send the call. And what I'm saying is I don't understand why
Like
that
yeah,
is
okay.
even a thing because you can just make the calls from go high level and you
hmm
have all the information there.
That's actually also
And
what it's
when
built
people
for, those transient agents.
yeah, and it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be way
Yeah.
cheaper. Like, why are you spending money to go send information somewhere else? Like that alone just does not make sense when you talk about I want to scale and do all these things. Like you're already paying. Well, I shouldn't say that because sometimes when I say that, some people think I'm saying like you don't need Make, and that's not what I'm saying because you do
Actually,
need an automation platform. But what I'm saying specifically for outbound calls, and let's take it a step further. A lot of people already have platforms that can make outbound calls with Vapi. But because they see content saying do this from Google Sheet or Make, they're doing it from there instead.
yeah.
And it's hard when somebody comes to you when you're trying to educate them or solve their problem. And then you're also asking them questions or you implement something and there's just like that disconnect of like, I don't understand why you did this way. And it's like, well, this is just a way. Like it makes more sense in what you want your workflow to be. If the information is already here, it makes no sense to send it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And also, there's probably like many things, many ways to do certain things. If you go, um, for example, with this Floreo AI we're building, the first thing that we wanted to do is actually make it accessible to add your own automations and attachments. And then we were like, okay, that's not what this platform is built for. It's just to make it very accessible, make it plug and play and robust. So we kind of completely geared off
Right.
that. And then we found that, hey, we can also just put an OAuth screen for Google Calendar in our app and allow users to just instantly
Yeah.
connect
And
their
then they
Google
just
Calendar.
collect.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Just like SynthFlow and all those. All right. So like that's some of the things I was talking about, or we've talked about when I talk about using code to use these component libraries and do simple things like that. That would basically be your white labeled SaaS. And
Hmm.
that is something that's really not actually expensive, even if you paid somebody to do it. Like, because the stuff is already built there. It's nothing like most IDE platforms, Replit, VS Code. I'll take VS Code out of there because I don't know if VS Code has it by default. I know Replit for sure literally has a link that you click that says, I want this app to have OAuth. And then you literally just add the OAuth that you want. And then it has OAuth. Like it takes
Yeah,
less than 2 minutes.
actually, yeah, yeah. So that's what we found is like all of these OR screens that you can put into your app. It's like really easy. You can just like you can go into the Google Cloud
Go Google
Console. You can
Cloud,
yeah,
generate a client key and secret key and
hmm
put it, and that's it. That's all you do.
yes, but then like for you have these different levels of sensitivity of data and like a profile where you can just log
Access
in.
the
Yeah,
scopes.
exactly. Yeah, the scopes. And
Yeah.
we figured that we found out that actually um, um, really it's really dependent on the sensitivity of the data that you want to have, how difficult it is to get that authorization. So with a login screen, it's
hmm
just you don't even have to authorize it or verify it. But if you go like into
hmm
their Google Drive, it's like you would have to call with the CEO of Google before you get that
Right.
authorization. Because, or I'm just yeah.
Right.
So there's like really hoops to go through, and it's also that like you send out your information, so you have to tell them, okay, this is the app, and this is what it does, and this is how we use their information, and
hmm
this is how
How
they
we
see the
use it.
screen,
Yeah.
and we inform them, and all of that stuff. And if you send that their way,
hmm
then they will reply with, "This isn't good enough." Then you're like, okay, why? Why isn't it good enough? It's like,
hmm
yeah, and then they refer to some article somewhere in their documentation. And it's like that's not even something that's. It's almost like they're using ChatGPT in order to
Yeah.
answer these.
Sometimes it's a hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get what you're saying. Sometimes it is hard when you basically are setting up an OAuth for any platform, and there's a process where they have to check your app, and if you don't know what to put or whatever, or they're just being dumb, that it might delay the process or make it hard. I know definitely what you're saying because
Yeah,
when I
that's
used
it.
to try to build,
Hmm.
um, when I used to try to build Chrome extensions, it was kind of like the same thing. It's a little different. It's a little easier to get on there, but it was still weird. Like
It
the
was
process
something
of
that.
doing it, I never like.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh
so
no, go ahead. I'm done.
yeah, okay. I actually looked into finding people that are so some are easier than others. There's others where you can just send your documentation, answer their questions, and you can get it. But the more difficult ones, there's actually people who do this for a living, is looking at your system, seeing if it's reliable, answering these questions for these OAuth screens, and you can hire them on a freelance basis just to get these authentications, verifications. So it's like this one specific thing where you're like, oh, great, I find a solution. And then either you're also sometimes at the grace of or at the mercy of these platforms that you're working with. Same with the CRMs that we talked about. It's like we're working with a client and they had a CRM system, and that CRM system did not have an API or did have an API reference that we could connect to the agent, but the and then we messaged, but they couldn't access that because they couldn't get an authentication token anywhere. So then we contacted that team from the CRM system, asking, "Hey, can we get an authentication token? We see that you have an API reference. Does it work? And can we use it?" And they're like, "What do you want to use it for?" And we, unknowledgeable of how do you say that, naive as we were, we actually told them that we wanted to use their API systems to develop voice agents. And they're like, "Yeah, no, we're going to build them directly into the CRM." And they were like, "Okay, you can't do anything. The client's not going to
Right.
change CRMs just to use your voice agents instead of
Right.
the one that the CRM builds."
Right.
So yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's something we run into. All right, for sure. So one
Not
thing
a lot.
also,
No,
mhm. Yeah,
well, I
continue.
was gonna say not.
Yeah.
I don't run into it a lot, but yeah, I've talked to you about that before. That happens because on the other side, sometimes they are open to letting you use the API or expanding it if it is closed and stuff like that. But a lot of my clients and people I'm working with right now,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's specifically healthcare, HIPAA or stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
they have a pretty open API documentation. And even then, for the
Yeah.
HIPAA and enterprise, they have a documentation. It's just you got to probably go through a couple meetings before you get to the person who you need to talk to get access to that or even see it or do whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's what I noticed. But these people are easier to connect with than you might imagine. For example, one automation platform that I work with is Mate, which allows you to. So we don't. All my videos are about voice agents, but with Vireo we do more than that. It's also this web application development, but also just automation in general. And one thing we do is marketing automation for a client here in the Netherlands, where we make blogs and marketing content, but also generate AI videos that accompany the blogs. And we first generate the voiceover, and then first the text, then the voiceover, then the images, and then put them all together with Creatomade, which is a system where you can just send them all of your files, and you can tell it how to make a video on that. So it's automated editing, which is quite nice.
Mm.
And I sent them a message because I wanted to change my billing address, and turns out that this really US-like company is just I'm in the Netherlands, and they're just like in Leeuwarden. So I get this Dutch reply suddenly, and we're gonna send them a message on working together. So yeah, it's like reaching out. So that's something that the Discord and some conversation that I had with you really opened my eyes. Reaching out to platforms and platform owners. It's like there's opportunities where otherwise you wouldn't find it if you just send them a message. Same with you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You wanna put yourself out there, and sometimes you want to be a little different
Mm-hmm.
and just be straightforward and direct, and you'll be surprised at what happens. Like I was telling you the other day, like I don't got to go too much into it, but I've been contacted by now officially every voice platform because of the things that I'm building and stuff that's getting out there, and some other people actually like showing the actual team because they're power users of that platform
Mm-hmm.
what I'm building or what I might build for them and whatever. And I have like I have a lot of messages and a lot of things going on right now, which that literally would not happen if I was
Mm-hmm.
not in these communities in general.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's huge opportunity in that, joining those communities and actually engaging in them. So yeah, also so nearing the end of this talk, I think I really want to get into what you have on your platform, because I was incredibly excited about what we talked about on Discord and the templates that you've built, because you've been in this space for 14 years, and also you've built all kinds of agents and automations with Vapi, and well, you've built this entire platform um, that you'll be releasing soon. Could you tell me more about that and how people could find that, and what's the value to them, either at the beginning level
Yeah.
or when
So
they're more advanced, specifically also when not just for their own business, but also when they're providing to clients?
yeah. So NoCodePreneurs.
I'll quickly visit the
I've
website.
been having this con. Yeah, I've been having this in my head for years.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I think I'm at the point now where I can give a lot of my perspective just in general about automations and AI in general, even
Mm-hmm.
though right now we're specifically talking about voice. So what that is a community that's designed to teach anybody, it doesn't matter where you are, if you're a marketer or you want to be a builder, how to get into automations and AI, and then you can apply that to any industry, whether it's voice or social media or building a SaaS or whatever the case it may be. And with that being said, in those categories, I myself have also created automations, templates, or GPTs to go along with that. So specifically just speaking with voice AI, like I've created a GPT called my Vapi that for the last 10 months I use it to do everything as far as the API, which saves me a lot of time. I've had other people
And
use
that's
this and beta test this and give me feedback,
mm-hmm.
and it's been something I've been trying to work on to provide to everybody in a certain way, and that's just taking a little bit of time. But now I'm just ready to. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also
Did you want
that
to say something, Jasper?
oh yeah, that Vapi system or that my Vapi is not just so. It's like you're saying it's something that you use internally, but like I've been using it myself and been promoting it, and people really like it. So that's just one example of something that actually works and adds value. The my Vapi GPT.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and then
Mm.
there's other GPTs that do other things
Over
like
3,000, right?
scrape websites and help you make. Yeah, I've created over 3,000 GPTs
Hmm.
in total, which I have like my own little case study and little interview about that. But also there's other tools like I use AI Table, which I have a lifetime deal for. And if you join the community, you get access to that, to utilize that. And there's other tools and components. So to go back, what NoCodePreneurs is a community for you to come and learn how to use AI and automation in various different ways. And if you are specifically focused on doing it for voice or whatever other
Hmm.
category, like creating custom GPTs, you will have a lot of resources for that. Now, I think the other thing that's really important, what I'm trying to do and what's been my main focus, and this is why I haven't presented my community a lot, is that I want to do this in a collaborative way.
Hmm.
So because some people may feel like I may be a little too advanced or whatever, and nothing's wrong with that. And also because when I created these GPTs and other products, my intention wasn't to have it tied to my community. And
Hmm.
I knew it was going to be something that was like meant for just the community in general. So I want to have a way to collaborate with people like you and
Hmm.
other people who are in the voice space who've used my GPT to offer it in your community. So people don't feel like they have to
Yeah.
join my community to get access to some of the products I have. Hopefully, if that makes sense and it's not too confusing. So if people would like to join my community and get other benefits
Hmm.
for one monthly price and other
I'm on your
resources,
website
they
now.
could come and join.
Hmm.
Yeah, they can come and join. But if people just want access to some of the products and some of the things that I build, if you're a part of Jesper's community or any other communities, they have exclusive affiliate links to my website with discounts attached to them where you can still get access to those products. And because I'm also in Jesper's
Yeah, that's awesome.
community, I have like no problem going in there and making content or hopping in a Discord or whatever, or having a live where we go over how to use the product and stuff like that. Because once
Hmm.
again, I don't like building things or everything I build is not going to be tied to my community for people to use and stuff like that.
Yeah, and also I'm planning to. That's sort of the discussion that we have is not just limiting the templates to your stuff, which is incredible in and of itself. But I'm also looking to see if I can add to that and some other guys in this space. So some names that I'm not sure if we can drop right now, but are for sure interested, and people that follow this Vapi space might know, who could be adding to that in the
Yeah, I could
future.
touch
Which
on
is
that. Yeah, I could touch on that. What he's referring to is for the last couple months, I've been collaborating on having a VAPI cohort.
hmm
I had a lot of people ask me to build a course and do a lot of things, and I do have one built, but I never released it because I really wanted to focus on the community aspect. So I wanted to collaborate with other people who I've talked to, and we share the same vision in the
Hmm.
space to basically have a cohort where we present all of our information and resources and be able to give something to the people that will basically jumpstart you guys in building for yourselves or for your clients.
Hmm. Yeah, that's. I think that's the most. So we talked about that. Is we do build. We have these videos and have these blueprints and templates, but actually that hub right there is really a great way to get started and have something actually at a higher level, some tangible level that you both understand, but also can use to deliver for clients. And well, having access to some guys in the space that know how to utilize that and how to fix that and make something out of it, that's also a great bonus. So it's not just the templates, but also the community behind it, and well, the entire ecosystem basically. I think that's the most powerful thing. Actually, making it allows people to be also not just able to sell something and be a part of this space, which is quickly growing, but also be confident in it. And I think that's a
Right.
great thing. Some reliable systems. That's also
Yeah.
what the clients say is, and that's something that if I am in a sales situation where I'm selling our services, it's like sure I can. So first you have the wow effect of the demo, where they hear how natural it sounds and they can leave a message on email. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And then you have the actual automation, which is also great. But what really gets them over the edge, and because the wow effect doesn't make them sign a proposal or initiate the build. What makes them initiate the build is the professionalism and building reliable systems and actually being able to communicate those systems in a way that you understand them and that you like convey that you believe in them and that they will actually solve a problem and work in the short and in the long term. And I think that a lot of things in that template and that community will really add to that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah, and it's coming soon for sure. I've
Hmm.
had so many um requested so many things. I know some people feel like I'm just like pulling their tail and stuff, but
Yeah.
I want to do it in a certain way and certain things like that.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. So that's also something that we're certainly going to get back into. And also, like with every time, there will be something about this video on the member platform. So if you go to members.vireo.com, in the resources, you can find some things about this platform, what you could use it with, some ideas about that we talked about in this video, and that you can actually use for yourself. I think that's a great thing to do, a great idea. You have some resources for me to share on that platform for people who are interested in the no-codepreneurs.
Not yet, but I will by the end of this week for sure. I'll have some things open up. It'll be literally instantly. You can go and get some free resources. I'll probably have, I do actually have like a free, like no codepreneur course that I'm gonna release soon that goes over like the basis of automation and thinking about some of these things in a different way.
Hmm.
And then I'll share those with you. And then if you do another video or we do another video, it's in the community.
We're
Everybody
certainly
will be
doing
able
another
just to
video,
go in.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that I actually thought about, and well, there's a lot of things that we could try, but well, I'll save that for after our conversation. We can get into that about the things that we could do as a follow up. But yeah, I think that talking about trying to put most value as possible in a single video, I think that let's put it this way. I hope people don't gloss over this because this is without a doubt the best video I've made so far because it's not a building video, but whether you're a beginner or getting into Vapi, and especially if you're an agency owner trying to make something out of this, like I think we've really dropped some very valuable stuff in this talk. Some things that I for sure would want to listen to when I start out. But that's also because I'm really passionate about what we build and trying to find solutions that actually work. And yeah, I can easily talk to you about that for sure.
Yeah, same
Um,
thing here. The voice AI space is definitely interesting, and you know, it's going to be said many times, but it's really just kind of like the beginning. So
mhm.
good to be in the forefront and be able to collaborate with a lot of other people to get different perspectives on all these things that are about to happen.
All right. Well, perfect. I think that wraps it up. I'm really excited about our next meeting on the channel, and I really look forward to anyone who's watching this to drop what you think was really interesting and what would be a great idea, and to check out the NoCodePreneurs, of course. And check out what's there. Also, you can join the Discord community on members.fleo.com. Join the Discord community, and then you can also reach Chowderr there. Tylan Chowderr Miller is his full name, and yeah, he's very active on that community. And also, I quickly show the Vapi community. Anyone in here who's building with Vapi should definitely join that one as well. You can find Chowderr in there, and then also send him a message, I think, if you like to work
Feel
with him.
free anybody to send me a message.
Yeah, to find some more information about the community or the templates, and also put this into the introduction of the video, of course. So yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Tylan, and yeah, looking
Yeah, no
forward to the next
problem.
one.
Thanks for talking, Jesper. Yeah, I appreciate it. I like for me, and I think for anybody that wants to like grow, you definitely gotta have a lot of conversations with people
Hmm.
and be in different spaces and rooms all the time for sure.